So I've decided to cut the videos into a couple parts because I think it was too long. So if you get to this part, that means you finished that quiz, and hopefully you got a wonderful result for that. And we are moving on to the second part. We actually stopped somewhere over there and said we are going to find the a, b, and c. And the whole reason why for the quadratic equation it comes with the a, b, and c is all because of this quadratic formula. And we'll talk about the discriminant later on. Quadratic formula is actually this big box of a, b, c's over there. But the good thing is it's just like a, b, and c, and you have that x over there. So what does it mean? What do we want from this? So let's say if I have a simple quadratic equation, we are just going to say y is equal to 9x squared plus 6x plus 7. It's very reasonable for any kind of question, or if you're curious enough to want to figure out what x is. What do we mean by that? Why do we have like this, x squared, we have x over there? What does it mean? So basically, quadratic formula is a way to find out the number for this x is equal to something. Okay? In fact, this equation is telling us that your quadratic equation, if you're going to find the x, you should have two answers. The reason for that is, you see that sign in the middle, that one that looks a little bit confusing right over here? This is actually what we call the plus or minus. So that means it can go two ways. Okay, so you have two answers. One is negative b, you plus this whole lot of things and then divided by 2a, and then the other answer is going to be negative b minus this lot of things divided by 2a. So if we have a quadratic equation of some sort, we are going to have two answers. And I'll talk about whether we're going to get two, sometimes we'll get one, sometimes we'll get none, and we're going to get into that situation later on. However, the activity we did earlier about the a, b, and c, it all ties to this. That is, we are going to utilize this quadratic formula to find out what happened with the x. And depending on which class you're in, some of you may have been forced to remember this already. If you're not, just spend some time, remember this formula. It takes 5 minutes. It's going to be useful for many years to come. Okay, and so if you haven't, pause it, remember it. If you have, good, we can go ahead. So most of this question will say solve the quadratic equation. They will give you a quadratic equation, and normally they will be in this form, or maybe not. You have to change that to standard form. Everything is equal to 0. So what I'm trying to say is I have an equation which is x squared minus 2x minus 3. This whole thing is equal to 0. And let's just talk about solving this first. We are going to use the quadratic formula, this one, and try to solve it. So first of all, I would say I'm going to get at the ABC. So A, if there's nothing in front of your x squared, that means it's 1. So A is equal to 1. B is going to be your negative 2. And C is going to be your negative 3. So that's how you get at those A, B, C for that quadratic formula. I'm going to write it out over here because I don't want to go back. So it says it's negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So when I'm finding the x, I'm going to follow this pattern. I have to use substitution. I'm going to substitute the b over here, the b over here, the a, the c, and the a. So it takes some time, but it's actually the most straightforward way. So x is equal to a negative, so I always have that negative. B, what do I have for b? I have a negative 2, so be careful about those double negative. Plus or minus square root b squared is going to be a negative 2 squared minus 4 A is going to be 1, C is going to be negative 3, divided by 2 times my 1. Alright, pay attention to this. I think it's a good practice when you're doing the substitution. Just leave a parenthesis over there. I know sometimes like this 1, you don't want to have the parenthesis because you know it's just 2 times 1. Just to be safe, especially when you have like a negative number somewhere. If you keep this practice, then you shouldn't run into the negative issue. Okay, so let's just do one thing at one time. X is, let's look at this. We're going to do this term, negative, negative 2, 2 negatives turn into a positive. Plus or minus is going to stay. Square root is going to stay for the time being. Negative 2 square. Negative 2 square means negative 2 times negative 2. 2 negative is a positive, so you get yourself a 4. Failing that, use a calculator. Next bit, I do want to talk about this. A lot of people make mistakes right over here. This thing. When you're dealing with this, it's actually negative 4 times 1 times negative 3. If you always get the signs incorrect, just write this out. The first item is negative 4. You times a 1. You times a negative 3. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Then times negative 3 is going to be a positive 12. Okay, be careful about signs. So, because it's a 12, I have a positive 12 over there. If you keep that, then that calculation will be correct. Over 2 times 1, which is 2. Then I can do another thing now. So, we are going to do the 4 plus 12 is going to be 16. I'm going to write all of this out. I'm not going to skip any step because skipping, then you may get confused. So square root of 16 is quite nice. As a number goes, that's just going to be 4 divided by 2. And as I said earlier, if you're solving for a quadratic equation, there's a chance that you may get to 2 answers. And this is where it's going to branch out to 2 different paths. So because I have 2 plus 4 divided by 2 as the first part, so x is equal to 2 plus 4 divided by 2. That's what that plus or minus means. That means you can actually branch out to 2 different paths. The other one is x is equal to 2 minus 4 divided by 2. All these numbers are very nice. We shouldn't have too much problem. 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3. 2 minus 4 is going to be negative 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 is going to be negative 1. So in this scenario, you have 2 answers. If I'm going to weigh it out, because, why not? At the end, I do want to do this. Spending all this time, I'm going to find the x. So x is equal to 3. X is also equal to negative 1. So that's like how you get to the answer. It's a relatively long process. However, it's the most straightforward process you're going to get for solving quadratic equation. In Algebra 2, you are going to learn other methods to do this, but I would say this one is still the safest one. Picking the ABC is not too difficult, so long as you can remember the formula. You're plugging all this in. Just be very careful about multiplications. It's very high successful rate to do this, instead of like other things you actually have to think, and then you may not be able to figure out certain things. I'm not going to go into the whole detail because none of you in my Algebra 2 actually. So you are either in my Algebra 1 or geometry. This is just a skill that we need to bridge certain things in geometry. And if you're in my Algebra 1, we should cover this anyway. So if you are not following this, just pause the video, go back a couple minutes, and just watch these procedures and make sure you understand this. I'll have another couple examples for this. Alright, So this one I have two solutions for it. So let's try another one. So give you more examples. So this one, A is going to be, again, just 1. B is going to be -6. C is going to be 9. Alright? And hopefully we don't need to write out that quadratic formula every single time. And if you have a piece of paper, write that out somewhere until you are absolutely familiar with it. So x is equal to -6. Keep those practice. Have the parenthesis over there. Plus or minus b squared is going to be -6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 9 over 2 times 1. So hopefully that will be your practice. Okay, listen to me. Good practice is a wonderful thing. It's like waking up, brushing your teeth. Good practice, good hygiene. So, -6 is going to be your 6 plus or minus -6 squared is just same as 6 squared, 36. This bit, again, I'll just do it separately. Just make sure we all will be able to do this. -4 times 1 times 9. -4 times 1 is -4 times 9 is equal to -36. This number, copy it over here. Okay? Then you will not make that mistake with those signs. Over 2. Now, if you look at the square root, 36 minus 36 is a wonderful thing. It's 0. Square root of 0 is 0. I'll write that out just in case. 6 plus or minus 0. So that's just going to be 0. So that plus or minus 0 doesn't mean anything anymore, because 6 plus 0 is 6. 6 minus 0 is also 6. So in this scenario, your x is equal to 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3. So your answer is x is equal to 3. Alright? So in this scenario, I have only one solution. What was that? I got that sorted out by not knowing what happened. I still do not know what happened. Seemingly just something making noise. Is really scary. Okay, let's get back to it. Hopefully it's not, nobody is calling me or anything. I still couldn't figure it out. It's strange. Anyway, so let's get back to this. There is only one solution for this. So it doesn't always come out with 2. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you're going through this process, go back to the very first example. I actually have 2 solutions. X is equal to 3, x is equal to -1. And for this one, x is equal to just 3. Just one answer. Okay? So it's not always equal to 2. Yes, I'm branching out, but in this scenario, I couldn't branch anywhere. Last example. So this example, we have to solve this. So we are going to write down what is A is 1, B is going to be 3, C is going to be 3 again. So as you can see, the process, if you start working on it, it shouldn't take too long once you get used to it. And that's why you need the homework assignment on this. You just need to practice. So let's just try this. So x is equal to -3. See what I'm doing? Even if it's a positive number, just put the parenthesis around it. It makes your life much easier. Plus or minus b squared, 3 squared, minus 4 times 1 times 3 divided by 2 times 1. Alright, so all of that, write that down. And then you get a -3 plus or minus 3 squared is 9 minus 4. Okay, again, I'll do this. is going to be -4 times 1 times 3. -4 times 3 is -12. So this whole number, plug it over there, is going to be -12 over 2. Now this one is a little bit different. -3 plus or minus 9 minus 12 is going to be a -3, isn't it? Over 2. And if you're in this scenario, keep that in mind until you are in Algebra 2. You cannot do this. You cannot do this. Cannot. Oops, too many ends. Cannot do this. Square root of a negative number, you will not know how to do it until Algebra 2. And in this scenario, the answer is no solution. So let's write this out and I'll show you why. Okay, so square root of -3, you cannot do it because of complex number, and you'll learn that later on. Let's just do a calculator. Let's just show you what it means. I want to do let's change this into scientific. 3 negative square root, invalid input. If you use any other calculator, if you put that in correctly, square root of a negative number is invalid. So it's kind of like divided by 0. They will say it's invalid. So quadratic equation, you may run into this scenario. So if the square root, this part, after you do the subtraction or addition or whatever that is, you ended up with a negative number, it's no solution. Okay, so this video, I'm going to stop right over there. You are going to do the next part for this quiz, and it's all about solving quadratic equation. This one may take a little bit longer because obviously there are lots of calculation involved. Alright, so if you have problems with these 3 examples, you come back and watch it until you understand it. There are only 3 scenarios. The first one is you have 2 answers. Okay. Second one, you have 1. The last one is no solution. And I think I'll just create another video, and that last one is going to talk about how does this come about, like whether we have 2 or 1 or 0 solution. That's actually a very easy way to check this. And good luck with the quiz. Bye for now.